presentation of the NTRA in association with ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.
We're halfway down the road to Kentucky Derby 129, but has the cast for America's greatest horse race largely been determined, or some new players ready to join in? Today, horses like Hutchison Stakes winner Lion Tamer, Lecomte champ Saintly Look, and hometown hero Champ Ali will square off here in Kentucky in a test to determine who's truly Derby worthy. It's the $500,000 Lane's End Stakes from Turfway Park. Well, we're getting closer to Louisville on the first Saturday in May. In fact, we're in Kentucky right now, Turfway Park, up north in Florence, Kentucky, near Cincinnati. It's here where they're going to contest the Grade 2 Lane's End Stakes, 1 1/8 miles. At the beginning of the racing day, troops fighting in Iraq were honored with a moment of silence here at Turfway. Welcome Kenny Mayne, Randy Moss, Kenny Rice here at Turfway for 2 races. The Lane's End coming soon. The Rushaway Stakes coming sooner. That's 100,000. Also 3-year-olds, all 3-year-olds all the time. And Randy, the 32nd Lane's End Stakes, 1 1/8 miles, coming up where they start stretching out, getting closer to that 1 1/4 miles. It's gone by all sorts of names over the years. The spiral, spiraling up toward the Kentucky Derby was the thought. But by any name, only one, Lily T in '92, went on to win this race and then the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's a good news, bad news kind of thing. You know, the good news is it's produced 45 Kentucky Derby starters. The bad news is the record in the Derby is 1 for 45. So if you're betting on all those horses, that's not too good for the old P&L statement.
But there are other races to win besides the Kentucky Derby, right?
Yeah, and the statistics can be a little misleading, as is often the case, because if you thought, just don't look at the Kentucky Derby, you look at some of the other races. It's produced Hansel, who won the Preakness and the Belmont. Prairie Bayou won the Preakness. Summer Squall won the Preakness. Last year, Perfect Drift ran 3rd in the Derby. So it's come up with some really good contenders.
Serena Song as well. All right, well, it's not too late. Still 6 weeks out to make your mark, get into another race, and try to get into the whole thing. What has brought us to this point so far where we like these other horses here?
Yeah, as they say, previously on Sit Go Racing to the Kentucky Derby, we brought you the Louisiana Derby. It was a Peace Rules Calf Weighing Exacta. Bobby Frankel, the winning trainer of Peace Rules. And Frankel came back to also win the Florida Derby. Empire Maker in a romp, the most impressive prep so far this spring. 9 3/4 lengths over Trust and Luck. Last week, live from Aqueduct, the Gotham.
Great call in that race.
2 turns, yeah. One of our stellar moments. Alley Sweet leads from start to finish. A much better call shortly afterward in the Tampa Bay Derby, where Region of Merit and Aristocat surged late to finish 1-2. They were the 2 favorites. They earned the right to go on now to another prep. And then finally, our highlight race of last week, the San Felipe, from turf to dirt. Buddy Gill holds off. That's what I'm talking about, barely, in the San Felipe out there at Santa Ana.
Buddy Gill won it, but that's what I'm talking about, is what everyone's talking about after the race. Ranked 3rd in the NTRA poll, voted upon by the media. Empire Maker, Frankel's horse. He's been crazy about this thing pretty much since birth.
Right from the start. Frankel also trains Peace Rules, number 2. You see 15 first-place votes of the 18 for Empire Maker. Go down to number 7, Lion Tamer. He's the favorite here in the Lane's End. If this were a top 25 like they do in the AP basketball poll, you could also see Champ Ali, who is here for our race, and also Eugene's 3rd son, who will be ridden today by Pat Day.
Montana State got 2 votes also. Pat Day is going well on this Saturday here at Turfway. He has 4 winners so far. He's done that now 3 times in his career at Turfway Park. Earlier in the day, our man Kenny Rice caught up with him discussing the Kentucky Derby.
Just as every owner and trainer is hoping that their horse stays in that top 10 list getting ready for the Kentucky Derby, all the jockeys, even the great ones right now, are jockeying for position to see if they will have a horse to run for the Roses. Included in that group is the Hall of Famer, Pat Day. Pat, you come into today's race, you're riding Eugene's 3rd son here in our Lane's End Stakes. But first, let me ask you, do you already have a Derby horse?
No, we're still shopping. It's an exciting time of the year, a great time to be involved in racing, and certainly an interesting time for riders everywhere as you said, juggle for mounts for the Derby.
As far as the way it works, do you deal with this mostly? Does your agent deal with this mostly? Is it a 50-50 proposition for you guys when selecting horses that you think will be able to go on and run for the Triple Crown races?
Well, it's 50-50. I mean, we work together to try to select and secure the mounts. You know, the possibilities for the Derby and hopefully for the Triple Crown. But you know, we compile all the information, put it together, look at it and then try to come up with an intelligent decision and hopefully the right decision.
Ever any hard feelings involved here? A trainer says, I thought you were going to stay with me, or maybe vice versa. You thought a trainer was going to stay with you.
Well, I'm sure there is. We try to be very diplomatic about that. We try to be fair with everybody and handle it in such a way that we don't burn any bridges.
Well, you got a shot today. You're checking out Eugene's third son to see if he might be your Derby horse coming off that allowance win in Florida.
Well, we're looking for a big race out of him here today, and hopefully he'll step forward. Obviously, it's a little tougher competition today than what he's had in the past, but we're optimistic.
Good luck to you, Pat.
Thank you very much.
All right, Pat Day. Maybe he'll find his Derby horse today. He certainly knows about this race. He has won it a record 5 times. Kenny?
All right, let's look at the field now for the Rushaway. $100,000 is the total purse. Going a mile in the 16th. Han Eagle, his trainer loves him, right?
Yeah,
11-1 even.
Sometimes trainers aren't the greatest handicappers in the world, but hey, at 11-1, it could be our Bud Light long shot here.
Grand, the 5 has been bet way down. And then you look to Private Gold. Pat Day is on Private Gold. He'll be going after his 5th win of the day, and Private Gold is the even money favorite. We're coming right back. This race is about 3 minutes from post. We're about 2 minutes away from coming back. Pat Day going for win number 5. See if he can do it when we come back.
This ESPN2 presentation of Citgo Racing to the Kentucky Derby is brought to you by Citgo. We know you. By Visa. It's everywhere you want to be. By Budweiser. The best things in life are the things that are true. Budweiser. By Long John Silver's. This is seafood country. And by NTRA.com, the official site of the NTRA and the Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships.
Welcome back to Turfway. They claim it's 57. I'd argue against that heavy wind coming, but the track is fast. That's what matters most, as we're just moments away from the Rushaway. They're coming close to the gate right now. The favorite is Private Gold. As we told you earlier, Pat Day has 4 winners so far, going after his 5th, which would be a record for him at this track anyway.
And Pat Day has won the Rushaway Stakes 4 times. Kenny Rice mentioned he won the Lanes End 5. He's also had a lot of success here as well. Kentucky's just his home ground. He thrives in Kentucky, and the people love him. He's signing autographs all over the place. He's a hometown hero.
It's almost surprising that at only 6-5 here. 2 scratches at the bottom of your screen. Astro Plane preface. They were both out before they hit the track. Here we go to Private Gold. Definitely the class of the field. He was second to Vindication on this very track. That was back in September.
Yeah, I mean, I've slept since then, but if you remember back there in that race at the Kentucky Cup Juvenile here, there was a loose horse in that race that bothered Private Gold all the way around, and he still finished pretty well. He was 6 lengths behind Vindication. Now, they had high hopes for him at that point. He didn't quite pan out. His trainer, Pat Byrne, also has Eugene's third son in the Lanes End, and he says Eugene's third son's a lot better than this horse, but this is a step down from the Lanes End. This is easier competition, and they're hoping to get a good race from him here. He'll be off the pace kind of horse.
Acceptable Venture is the 7 horse. He's right now at 5-1, which I guess is next best, or not next best, second to next best on the betting as far as the players are concerned. He's now at 5-1. He's lightly raced. He's only been out 4 times in his entire career. Just 1 win, couple of seconds.
He's never been around 2 turns. This is his first try around 2 turns, and as opposed to Private Gold, who should be sitting off the pace, Acceptable Venture should be one of quite a few horses in this field that'll be setting or forcing the pace. There is a lot of speed in here. The track is fast, upgraded from good earlier today, but it has been kind of speed favoring throughout the day, so we'll have to see how that plays out as well.
All right. I'd like to modify my remarks about who was first or second choice, rather, after him. It's actually Grand. Grand bet way down because Grand was 12-1 morning line, now down to 4-1. This is a horse that raced 4 times over in England against Lesser, come up to Woodbine in a grade 2, did okay there, 3rd out of 6. Hasn't raced since October of 2002.
Well, you were close enough. Grand is 4-1, Acceptable Venture is 9-2, so they're both right there together. They bought Grand, Team Valor Stable, the owner, from out of a race in Wolverhampton, England last fall when he won a dirt race by 23 lengths. He didn't run very well in his next start at Woodbine, but Elliott Walden won this race last year with Mr. Mellon, and the horse is training pretty well out here.
All right, they're just about all in. Mike Battaglia is the race caller here. We send it up to him right now for the call of the Rushaway.
Okay, just about in for the Rushaway. There's Private Gold, the favorite, waiting for Brush with Gold, and we'll be ready to go in the Rushaway. There at the post. All in line. Hone Eagle acting up just a little bit. And they're off. for the lead. Down along the inside, that's Paula's Pride. Also from the inside, Desert Warrior. Quickly on the outside now, Brush with Gold. And on the outside, Private Gold into the first turn. Brush with Gold moves by and gets the lead. Has it by a length and a half. Paula's Pride is second. Then gaining ground up on the outside, Private Gold takes third ahead. Hone Eagle fourth, a half length. Desert Warrior fifth by 3. Acceptable Venture runs a sixth. Then through from the inside, that's Dance Pro, followed by Tito's Bow and Grand. 23-1 for the opening quarter. The leader, Brush with Gold, has it by a length and a half. Hone Eagle is second. Then from the outside, Private Gold runs third. Paula's Pride is fourth. Desert Warrior fifth. It's a length back to Acceptable Venture, followed by Dance Pro. Then Tito's Bow and Grand is the trailer. They got the half in 46-4. It's Brush with Gold, still there a length and a half. Private Gold takes second. Down along the inside, Paula's Pride runs third. Up on the extreme outside, Acceptable Venture is gaining ground in fourth as they move into the stretch. Private Gold ahead in front. On the outside, Acceptable Venture. Those two together. Then Paula's Pride, Hone Eagle nearing the wire. Private Gold is in front. Then Acceptable Venture. Private Gold on the inside. Private Gold. Pate gets his fifth win on the card. Beats Acceptable Venture. It's a photo for third.
Pat Day's done it again, his fifth win of the day, so that exceeds what he's ever done here at Turfway Park, having done twice. A little bumping at the top of the stretch as they came down, but I don't think there's going to be any inquiry in that.
Yeah, I don't think that's really going to come to anything, although we've had one DQ already today in a stakes race. This one looks like it's going to be as is. Private Gold didn't get the best trip. Pat Day wouldn't have drawn this up on the chalkboard. 4 wide around the first turn. A lot of times you can just stick a fork in a horse once that happens, and a little wide around the second turn, 3 wide or so. But still has enough left to hold off Acceptable Venture, who was 5 wide around the first turn.
Yeah, he went the widest. I think if anyone it would be in trouble here, it's Acceptable Venture, who came in a bit. I don't think there's any problem with Private Gold coming out.
And there is Pat Day keeping Private Gold in front of Acceptable Venture. 5th win on the card. Pat's never done that before at Turfway Park. He's on a roll.
Pat Day's not done. He's going to be back in our featured race, the Lane's End, but we'll continue with the Rushaway. More on that when we come back from Turfway Park. Pat Day's the man so far today. Private Gold is the winner of the Rushaway. Pat Day, the winner for the 5th time on this card. So for Private Gold, that's his 3rd win in 10 career starts in the money 7 out of 10 times. And Randy didn't like his chances as they came around the very first turn.
No, he had a really outside trip, which at some tracks is a deal breaker. Now you'll see again there, that's Private Gold breaking from post number 8, and Acceptable Venture in post number 7 is trailing the field right now. He didn't really get away that sharply, but Day in the green and yellow silks of Bob and Beverly Lewis, as you see there, is battling for second around the first turn. And look at that trip. That's not a particularly great place to be. And outside of him is Acceptable Venture. Now, Turfway Park, a lot of horses seem to go wide here around the first turn and the second turn, and they're still able to finish well and able to handle it. This is not one of those tracks where you just completely throw a horse out, like maybe a Pimlico or something like that when that happens to a horse. But you see here through the lane, Private Gold and Acceptable Venture, both Triple Crown nominees, dug in pretty nicely.
Here's the bumping right there with Acceptable Venture coming in, but it was pretty incidental.
No, really nothing much to that. Pat Day and trainer Pat Byrne will be reunited in our next race in the Lane's Inn with Eugene's 3rd son.
All right, Pat Day has won his 5th of the day. Where does Private Gold go next? Maybe Kenny Rice knows with this interview.
Kenny, I'm with Pat and Pat Byrne, the winning trainer, Pat Day, the winning jockey, who's won 5 times as we've talked about, and I'm sure you don't get tired of hearing it.
No, never. Not at all.
What about coming down the stretch in this one? Get a little cramped in quarters there?
Well, not really. Shane ran up on the outside of me. He got nearly head and head, and we brushed a little bit. My horse jumped back into the race, but he just wouldn't go ahead and put him away. He was kind of playing a little cat and mouse with him, but it was a big effort. Pat had him very well prepared, and he showed up and put forth a good effort. He was very pleased with it.
Said you had to kind of get him in the game a little bit today, huh?
Well, I tell you what, he's pretty enthusiastic early. It's just in the stretch here. You can see he's got his ears up looking. He's not really focused and putting forth 110%.
Congratulations, Pat. More to go today, maybe.
Lord willing. Thank you.
Pat Byrne, congratulations. You said he'd been knocking at the door. Now you get that stakes win with him here.
Yeah, he's been trying pretty hard. We've run him in several stakes, and I think one of the key factors today was coming off a couple of tough turf races at Gulfstream, and I love that angle, turf to dirt, and dropping back slightly in distance. So I think he had a lot of bottom in him for this race today.
And as far as future plans, do you start thinking now where his next stop might be?
Well, you know, he's probably realistically a cut below the top horses. We'd like to think maybe he can improve off this a little bit. You know, there's a bunch of races, nice races around the country. Obviously Lexington, maybe Lexington Stakes or something like that. So we'll just have to see, talk to the Lewises and Canellenberg and company and go from there.
Okay, good luck in the next race.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. And Pat will be back with Eugene's third son coming up in the Lanes End Stakes. Kenny, Randy?
All right, thanks, Kenny Rice. I guess it is an unfair thing to 2 minutes after the race demand that they declare where they're going next.
but we do it anyway.
Yeah, we try, because, you know, we're trying to get this path toward the Kentucky Derby. Private Gold paying $4.60. Okay, would you make any case for acceptable venture to move on? I mean, that was a close race.
1:45 and 2 for a mile and a 16th is not the kind of time that's going to catapult a horse into leading contention for the Kentucky Derby. Having said that, though, Pat Byrne is an excellent trainer. He trained Favorite Trick, best known for Favorite Trick, Horse of the Year in '97, and also he won the Breeders' Cup Classic with Awesome again the very next year in 1998. Countess Diana. He's trained a lot of really good horses.
All right, that's what's happened so far here at Turfway with the Lanes End coming up pretty soon. Right now, we're going to go around the country and find out who's doing what. In one case, who's not doing anything at all, sadly.
Yeah, we get our news update every week among the 3-year-olds. This is our Visa 3-year-old spotlight, and the object, of course, is for every one of these 3-year-olds is the Twin Spires at Churchill Downs. This year's Kentucky Derby will be on May 3rd. You'll see the Twin Spires right there, briefly.
There they are.
Now we go out to California, first of all, for talk about a horse that's not going to be in the Kentucky Derby, or Philly, Composure. She was, if you remember, she was nominated to the Derby, had a big win in the Santa Anita Oaks, but she came up with a fractured leg this past week for trainer Bob Baffert, and she has now officially been retired.
Going to full. I mean, going to breeding.
Going to the breeding shed. Baffert also in the news for Calf Wayne, the runner-up in the Louisiana Derby. Calf Wayne was ridden that day by Victor Espinosa. Baffert didn't like the ride particularly, thought he was too far back. Now a jockey change. Pat Valenzuela will ride Calf Wayne in the Santa Anita Derby. Espinosa lands on his feet. He will ride Minister's Wildcat.
These are all verbal contracts.
Verbal, like always verbal, but it goes both ways. Then you go to Louisiana, where a Badge of Silver ran disappointingly in the Louisiana Derby. He had that throat surgery. It's now official. Ronnie Werner told me this morning his next start, the Bluegrass at Keeneland, and not the Illinois Derby as had been originally planned.
Which takes us right to the Rebel, which is being run later today.
Oaklawn Park, Rebel Stakes, a great notion, a heavy favorite. And, of course, we will bring you the stretch run of the Rebel and also a look at some of the other races this week, including the
Special day, Wednesday.
Wire to wire, Wednesday at noon. We'll also preview the Dubai World Cup. Big show.
All right, 25 years ago, the last Triple Crown winner affirmed Steve Cawthon, the jockey. Since then, he's done many things, including buy a horse farm. He's the vice president here at Turfway. And today was Steve Cawthon bobblehead day. We had a very animated discussion with former jockey.
Steve, 25 years later, the bobbleheads come out. Are you trying to milk this Triple Crown thing for all it's worth?
You know, everybody keeps telling me somebody's going to do it. So, you know, it might be my last year, so I might as well get all it's worth.
After you won those first 3 races in the Triple Crown, did you consider going for a 4th so that you could have 4 straight wins in a row and have sort of a quad instead of a Triple Crown? You've gained a lot of weight since your riding career. What do you weigh, like 240, 250 now?
At least. You know, it's sort of, you know, having a hard time keeping it under 300.
Could you ever see sumo wrestlers riding like in a handicap where they really wanted to, you know, equalize things? Yeah, if someone does score on a Triple Crown, would it drive you back to want to go back and still be the last guy to win one?
It might,
even at 240 pounds.
It might drive me to want to be, but it's you know, that's a big one to ask. You know, I don't know if I could lose that much weight that quick.
Now that some time has gone by, can you admit Alydar was probably the better horse? Now that you've become a bobblehead, is it hard to show your emotions?
It is. It's but I'm always smiling.
Seems happy enough. There's the real Steve Cawthon, Triple Crown champion, multiple Eclipse Award winner, champion jockey over in Europe, and the vice president here at Turfway, plus he owns a horse farm. Good guy. Thanks for doing that. We're coming right back to Turfway. We're getting closer now to the Lanes End. It's a grade 2. Those those are the fancy colors of Lanes End Farm in today's feature here at Turfway, named for the big-time Kentucky farm Lanes End. The owner, Will Farish, the U.S. ambassador to Great Britain. AP Indy stands at the farm. If you want to hang out with AP Indy, it's going to cost you $300,000. Lanes End is in the business of producing top-flight runners. Today, this race named for the farm could produce a Kentucky Derby winner. Who knows? Let's look at the animals and meet them one by one. Lanes End, mile and 8, stretching out a bit. Saintly look breaking through. Looked to be in fine form before the Risen Star at Fairgrounds, Randy, but then looked to be over his head against people like Badger Silver.
He also got sick coming out of that race, so they're using that as an excuse. Before that, though, he won the LeCompte, and trainer Dallas Stewart hopes he's back to good form. Shane Sellers will be the jockey.
I personified Badger Silver by calling it people, but he could. Champ Ali, the local favorite, 6 to 7 wins into the career. 3 in a row at this very track. The one loss was to Soto, and that came with a lot of trouble.
Champ Ali, named after former heavyweight champ Muhammad Ali. Notice the K and the gavel there. That designates that he was sold at a Keeneland sale. This was an excellent race in the Battaglia. Put back a couple of strong challenges. He's a real horse in here. Lots of sizzle. Kind of belies the form on this one here. Very little chance, it appears, Maiden being the only win. He's a 30-to-1 shot in the program. He's 65-to-1 right now, trained by Dallas team. But Dallas has pulled off some big long shots before. Lots of sizzle. At least is improving and is bred to get the distance. Luis Rivera Jr. will be his jockey.
I think Aussie Cat, the most interesting animal in this field, has been in great form just before the Fountain of Youth. Regressed ever since, but it has Dwayne Lucas as the trainer. He doesn't waste his time coming here, does he?
He's come here a lot, too. He's come here. This will be the 16th time in the last 21 years he's had a starter in the Lanes End, but Aussie Cat not in good form. Wayne hoping change in surface makes a difference.
Wendlar's breaking from the 5. Nothing to write home about in this case, but if the race falls apart, this is one that could pick up the pieces coming from behind.
If he picks up the pieces, there'll be very few happy people, but the ones that are happy will be very happy because he's 99-to-1 right now on the board. Harry Oots, his jockey, actually rode in this race 30 years ago as an apprentice.
New York Hero breaking from the 6. This one's been bet down a bit. 4 straight second-place finishes. The last 2. I'm sorry, New York Hero with 2 wins and 2 second-place finishes up there in New York.
He'll run today with blinkers on. Should show some speed, but there's a lot of speed in the race. Norberto Arroyo Jr. will be aboard. Very consistent horse coming down from Aqueduct.
Got ahead of myself with Chicken Soup Kid. This one, the 4 straight second-place finishes. And the last 2 to Champ Ali here.
Trained by the leading trainer, the kingpin at Turfway Park, Bernie Flint. Chicken Soup Kid made a big run at Champ Ali in the Battaglia. Looked like he was going by in mid-stretch before Champ Ali kicked home again. This horse is almost always, like you say, right there.
Pat Day is going to go for his 6th win on the card. Very lightly raced Eugene's 3rd son.
2 wins in a second. This was an allowance at a mile and an 8th at Gulfstream Park. He won. That's the plus. The minus, it took him 14 1/5 seconds to get the last 1/8 of a mile. Doesn't bode that well on paper for a longer distance again.
But Lion Tamer's where all the money's going right now. This one blew away the field into Hutchison. That was on the Fountain of Youth Day back in the middle of February at Gulfstream Park.
He is currently the odds-on favorite, going around 2 turns for the first time. He's won his last 3 very impressively. The question is, can he go a mile and an 8? Top side of the pedigree says yes, bottom side says no.
Yeah, it's a couple of furlongs from his last out. So here's how they stand right now. Champ Ali, the local one, going at 5-2. Bottom of the field there, Lion Tamer on the outside at 4-5. In the middle, you can make a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely. Aussie Cat at 12-1. Some people still have some faith there in Lucas, even though he's Aussie Cat's had a couple of bad races back-to-back. I think it's a big price on New York Hero at 13-1. Very consistent.
Well, this one opened at 30-1. So has been bet down a bit since there. Right now, we got Lion Tamer.
You take a look at Lion Tamer. He's not a big horse at all, and that's something that Todd Pletcher always mentions when he's talking about how lightly he's got to race this horse. But even though he's not very big, he's pretty doggone fast.
Kenny Rice has a closer view than us. He's in the paddock. Kenny?
Kenny, right now, everyone's just kind of getting their last-minute looks. A lot of owners in this area, a lot of well-wishers, and particularly they're taking a look at number 2, Champ Ali. This is a good track for horses that run well on this track, and he certainly has. He is trying today become the first horse to ever win all 4 of the Derby prep races here at Turfway Park. Hasn't happened before, but he's 3 for 3 right now, floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee at times. the champ now trying to make it 4 for 4 here if he wins this Lanes End. And I talked a few minutes ago with his trainer, Greg Foley, who's very comfortable and relaxed and says, you know, he wants to see what kind of horse he has here. I think for several of the horses in this race, they're looking at this as if they were, say, the 7 or 8 seeds going into a tournament, and they're hoping to make a move up and getting a leg up and getting into the saddle. There's Jason Lumpkins, who's having a terrific meet. He's the leading jockey here at Turfway, riding Champ Ali, who has been unbeatable so far on this track. Kenny?
All right, the riders are up there. Saintly Look. Now, this one was training very well as it entered the Risen Star, as we mentioned. That was the one, you know, where Badge of Silver made its name.
Yeah, I mean, he and Badge of Silver were racing head-and-head all the way around the track, and Saintly Look on that day was 3-1, actually a shorter price than Badge of Silver, if I recall, and Badge of Silver just looked him in the eye with disdain and put him away. Saintly Look faded to be 18 lengths behind at the finish. A couple of days afterward, Dallas Stewart, perplexed about that performance, found out the horse had 102, 103 degree fever, so he's kind of thrown that race out and he's hoping for better things.
He's 9-1. Hasn't been that since his opening race where he's 26 and is maiden at Keeneland. Now the 8 is Eugene's third son. That's the one Pat Day is aboard, as we've said a few times now. 5 winners going through 6. Pat Day having a terrific day, and this thing here comes off of 2 allowance races that are much cheaper, obviously not stakes races, but you got to sort of like, until you have one day on the job, you haven't had your first day on the job. Until you've had your first, you can't have your second, right?
Right, and he's a son of Indian Charlie, who was the favorite for the '98 Kentucky Derby, but finished 3rd that year. Distance, though, is the big question mark for Eugene's third son. They're not even sure if he can go a mile and an eighth against top competition. We'll find more out today.
Kenny Rice back to work in the paddock. Kenny?
Greg Foley is the man who trains Champ Ali. He's perfect here at Turfway Park. How's he getting ready for this race?
Coming up the race perfect. He got a good work in him about 10 days ago. That's all I thought I really needed. He's training great, acts good. He shipped up here good today, and we're ready to go.
Well, people have talked he's good, and he's certainly been very good here, Greg. Are you glad now to get the chance with some of these others like Lion Tamer coming up from Florida and get a chance maybe to get a better idea about your horse?
Well, you know, you put up $500,000, you're going to get some competition, you know, and Lion Tamer's a good horse, no doubt about that, but he's coming into our track. We're on home court. He's never been over 7/8. May run all day. I don't know. I'm hoping he doesn't.
Well, he's worked out well. Jason Lumpkins last year about this time, Pat Day was riding him as a juvenile. Now Jason Lumpkins has jumped in, and he's been great here.
Jason's just been riding fantastic here. He's winning an unbelievable clip. You know, I'm very confident with him today.
Well, you and Jason and Champ Ali all may be getting some more notice in a few minutes.
Well, I sure hope so.
All right, good luck, Greg.
Thanks.
Thank you, Greg Foley. He is a Kentuckian. He is a horseman. His dad's a trainer, very well respected in the state. His sister's a trainer, and he's hoping to go out today and win the biggest race here of the year at Turfway Park, guys.
All right, they're about 7 minutes away from the break of the Lanes End, but right now we're going to go back in time. It's the Long John Silver's silver memory.
We have already invoked the name Lil E.T. once, and there he was 11 years ago. Big, strapping, good-looking horse, and Lil E.T. cut his stakes teeth, so to speak, right here at Turfway Park in this race.
And down the stretch they come at the rail. It's Lil E.T. from between horses. Trickster drops out of it. Is next, and Snappy Landing in deep stretch. Lil E.T. digging in and hanging on.
This was the first career stakes victory for Lil E.T., who later went on to claim the Kentucky Derby as a long shot, and it was, incidentally, the first Kentucky Derby win and the only to date for Pat Day.
We're coming right back to Turfway. They're about set to run the Lanes End. That's Pat Day going after number 6. He's on Eugene's third son. Eugene's third son, currently 7-1. Stay around. We're coming back to Turfway to run this race. Welcome back to Turfway Park, getting close to post for the Lanes End Grade 2. Reminder, if you don't want to bet your own money, go to ESPN.com, where you can play these Citgo Pick 6. Win a minimum of $500 per week. Not every one of you, we would go broke that way, but a minimum, we will dish out $500. Do that. Then again, if you'd rather use your own money, look at this odds update for the Lanes End. They're about to run 3 minutes, it says on the board now, to post. Bottom of the screen, Lion Tamer staying at 4-5. Anything else on there surprise you, Randy, about the way they're betting right now?
I am surprised at the odds.